on election day, when stakes are very high, especially if you're Jewish and have a belief as to who's the right person to win and who is better for the Jewish people and for Eretz Yisrael in the middle of a war, a very scary war, a very scary time. I think one of the things that many of us get to do is we check the polls because we want to know who's going to win. And you may not like the answer who's going to win, but at least you'll have the security of being able to get sad and disappointed already before, so that you don't have to wait for after the event. And you're hoping, of course, beyond hope, that your team wins, and you really want that. So elections draw us into a place of uncertainty, and the way it's done today, obviously, it has to be more interesting regardless. It's more polarized, and so we need to know that it is critical. If our team doesn't win, then the world falls apart, and they must win. We want certainty. We're looking for certainty. So the best way to get certainty is to go to sleep until tomorrow, and then you'll just know the answer, and you'll deal with it. Whatever the answer was, life will go on, and you'll figure it out. But right now, the anxiety is on such a high as to what's going to be. The stakes are so high that it's very difficult for us to accept that uncertainty. What we really want is to embrace the sense of uncertainty. To be absolutely, totally, and utterly okay with not having 1 inch of a clue as to where this is going. Because that's the way elections are. I can't forget, if you've been around a little bit, around a bunch of elections in the past, that elections actually mean nothing. Can't forget how the disengagement plan, which caused us this whole havoc right now, pulling out of Gaza, took place under the most rightist government you could ever imagine in Israel. It was Sharon, who was, the darling of the right. And the president in America was actually very, very pro-Israel. And in the middle of that period, that's when it transpired. I remember the current Prime Minister of Israel, when he was elected, it was such a relief, because till then you had, all these leftist governments and giving away land. And when he was elected, one of the first things that he did was he gave away Hebron. He was elected, it was 1996. First time he was elected, he was a rightist prime minister, very rightist. And the first thing he did was execute that agreement under the pretense of there's nothing I can do. The agreement is already an agreement. Maybe so, but the fact was that he was the one who did it. And so it's like, don't rely on elections regardless. Yosef relied on the butler, and as a result of that, he ended up being 2 more years in prison. It's about relying on Hashem. But let's talk about it practically, because there are major issues at stake, and it's scary. Who's going to win? What's going to be? What's going to happen? How do we live with uncertainty? How do we live with a sense of not having a clue as to what's happening next, which direction we're going, what's going to be, and how my life is going to be led? So we have a forefather. His name was Avraham Avinu. And Avraham Avinu, he was a holy Jew. He was the first Jew. He created the Jewish people. Avraham Avinu kept every single mitzvah of the 613 plus the 7 rabbinic mitzvahs. So it says, because Avraham Avinu kept everything I have, he kept my guardianship, all my mitzvahs, all my mitzvahs, chukotai v'torotai, all my statutes and my Torahs. And what that means is Avraham Avinu kept everything. Now, that's not a simple feat to accomplish, considering that he had no teacher. No one taught Avraham the Torah. What it means is that he figured out on his own every single mitzvah. He figured out that on the 15th day of the month of Nisan, there's something called Pesach. You have to know there's such a thing called a month, and there's such a thing called Nisan, and then there's Pesach, and it was before the Jews went out of Egypt, and he already ate matzah on Pesach, and he shook a lulav on Sukkot, and he blew the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and he did all the mitzvahs, and he kept Shabbos, etc. He didn't do the physical mitzvah, that's true. He kept the mitzvah spiritually, but he kept all the mitzvahs. There was one mitzvah that was an exception to the rule. And that was the mitzvah of Brit Milah. Avraham Avinu never had a Brit Milah. He never had a circumcision until he was 99 years old. That means every other mitzvah he kept, mind you, even rabbinic mitzvahs, Eruv Tavshilin. Avraham Avinu figured out that if Yom Tov falls out on a weekday, right before Shabbat, let's say Friday Shabbos, or this year we have Thursday, Friday Shabbos, so then Friday Shabbos means on Friday you can't cook for Shabbos. But if you took a cooked food before on Wednesday or on Thursday, and you took a cooked food plus a challah, and you started the cooking already, then that food's going to be ready for Shabbos. And then you can start cooking on Friday for Shabbos. He kept every mitzvah, even Eruv Tavshilin. Impressive to figure it out. How he figured it out, different conversation. Let's focus on this. Why is it that the mitzvah of Bris Milah Avraham Avinu did not keep? So, the answer given in the books, we assume, the mitzvah of Bris Milah you can only do once. It means cutting off a piece of the body. So once it's cut off, it's cut off. Avraham Avinu didn't want to cut off a piece of the body until Hashem told him to do so. And once Hashem told him to do so, then he was willing to do so. That means that when Avraham Avinu was 15, 16, 17, 20, 30, 50, 70, 80, at any point in time, he could have just died and never have done the mitzvah. Why did he wait? He waited because he needed Hashem to tell him to do the mitzvah. And until such time as Hashem told him to do the mitzvah, he wasn't going to do the Bris Milah. In other words, it's better not to do the Brit Milah at all than to do the Bris Milah without being told to do so. And let's unpack what's behind that, because there's a tremendous energy in this mitzvah. And as we'll see, we are not learning history over here about Avraham Avinu, we're learning the present. It's about you and I. It's about you and I needing to do a Bris Milah, and the only way to do a Bris Milah is when Hashem tells you to do the Brit Milah. And only when God tells you to do so, at that point is the Bris Milah worthwhile of doing. Only once Hashem says to do so, at that point, doesn't make any sense. So, Bris Milah means circumcision is a simple act. It's cutting that piece of the baby, the foreskin. But there's another type of Bris Milah. It's written in the pasuk. Torah says, "Umaltem et orlat levavchem." You have to circumcise the foreskin of your heart. There's another pasuk that says, "Umal Hashem Elokecha et levavcha." Note the contradiction. Who's doing the bris? Umaltem et orlat levavchem means you are circumcising the foreskin of your heart. Umal Hashem et levavcha means Hashem is circumcising the foreskin of your heart. So who's circumcising, you or Hashem? Answer is, it depends. There's two types of Brit Milah. There's Bris Milah which we do from below, our arousal from below. The Aramaic terminology would be isarusa dilesato, an arousal from below. And then there's a Bris Milah which Hashem does from above, isarusa dile'ela, what Hashem does from above. Now let's understand the difference between this is and how you make a Bris Milah. What does it mean to circumcise the foreskin of your heart? So circumcising the foreskin, easy. Take a scissor and cut the foreskin. But the Torah says, don't just do that, circumcise the foreskin of your heart. On your heart, you will notice you have foreskin. You ever noticed that? The heart is open. The heart's the center of everything in our lives. And on the heart, there's this blockage all the time. If you're in a relationship between two people, like a marriage, you'll see there's what you want to be. There's what's inside. There's the truth of the relationship and the beauty and the majesty of the relationship. And on top of it is foreskin, orla. And that orla is what's blocking the relationship. And it's very uncomfortable, that foreskin. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes you come home and you could have a fight with the very person that you love. And almost like because you love them. Because you wouldn't unpack all your negativity and all your stress onto someone you didn't know. You wouldn't talk that way to a stranger. You're only unpacking it because you love them. But so much negativity, just spewing negativity, and you don't want to, and you know you don't want to, and you're doing it anyway. And why are you doing it? Because you have an orla on your heart. There's a foreskin on our heart. The foreskin on our heart is the reaction that we react to things that happen around us. It's called anxieties, worries, fears, anger. Not for naught does the Gemara say, Kol ha'ko'es ke'ilu oved avodah zarah. If you're angry, it's almost as if you serve idol worship. Because to be angry means to accept that there's forces out there who are controlling my life. Every one of us has a natural affinity towards goodness, love, connection. Just, we know everything is good. And somehow, we can't express it. You know it's all good, and you're taken care of, and it's all fine. And then we act out all the time. Like, think about it. When you're getting angry, what are you getting angry about? Do you believe in Hashem or not? If it's Hashem, Hashem is running the world. And if Hashem is running the world, then what? It's all from God. I made a wedding last week. It was magnificent. The feeling at a wedding is just, it's beyond. You have to let it happen. You really need to let go, because there's so much stress involved in making a wedding that you can almost forget to be happy. Literally, like there's so many details involved, and you remember that, I do that, and then you have to just let it go, and then let it go. And the wedding was over. It was all done, and I see a text from someone, and he asked me. I don't think he knew I made a wedding, but he's texting me at 12:30 a.m. and he says, "Can you talk?" I didn't really want to talk, but the guy seemed like a very urgent thing to talk about 12:30. So I said, "You talk urgent." I said, "Okay." So I called him up. And essentially the guy spewed. He was very upset at me. Yeah. Why was he upset? Because I had said something he was looking out for a shidduch for someone, and I was called by someone who was close to, and I said something, and as a result the shidduch was ruined. I never said it. And I accepted that my words would have been construed in a certain way. And but really I would say it again because, I think it was fine what I said. So he was talking about a certain bacher who works in Yeshiva Bayas, and he was really, really upset. So he started to use expletives. And I don't let anyone use expletives on me. So I said, if you're using that word, I'm hanging up on you. And I did. And then he called back and I hung up again. And then he called back, and I said, last chance. And then I hung up again. So then he used WhatsApp, so I blocked him on WhatsApp. Then he used text, so I blocked him on text. And the same word every time. And then he emailed me, so I blocked him on email.
This is an adult?
Yeah. And then I came home from the wedding, and I was trying to feel the joy of the wedding. And instead, there was this extreme agitation. It's a nice word. You know, this guy was in a rage. And what I noticed was he just sent it right over to me. So it was actually magnificent, because I came home at night and my heart was racing. It was. I wish I could tell you the story was the guy did, and I just went home and I didn't care, but I did. I cared a lot, and it was very, very, very intense. And I was thinking about what it says in Tanya. It says that when someone comes over to you and spews anger all over you, that it's a time for you to realize, right? Let's say guy's davening. I'm davening. This is the example he brings. It was that week's Tanya. It was literally, there's the daily Tanya, so that was the Tanya of the week, last week. So if someone spews hatred on you and you're trying to daven, he's screaming at you, and you're trying to just daven, and you can't daven because of that. You want to realize that the reason this is happening is directly from Hashem. There is no other person involved over there. It's Hashem. Hashem is talking to you. Hashem is downloading this anger to you. Now I'm like, does that make you feel better? Now it's not Hashem doing it? Yes, it does. Because part of the rage and the anger is, how dare this guy use expletives on me? Take away that, strip away, right, that element of someone else. That guy was having a bad day. He's having a difficult time, and I'm sure maybe he's got shown bias issues. I don't know what he has, but basically he got upset. So what my work now is to strip and to detach the two. There's the anger that the guy gave me, right? The sense of anger, and then there's there's what he told me, right? And then there's the actual facts on the ground. So I looked at myself and I said, okay, that's not this guy. It's the anger. If it's the anger, what do I need to do? So I was lying in bed, and it was weird, because there was so much joy in the heart, and combined with a heart that was racing with that, it was the intensity of that experience. It was such an intense, it was short, but it was so intense. And so I was watching the heart, and my heart couldn't help it, just watching it, the heart was racing. And I'm thinking, I should do this and do that or whatever. I'm like, no, I should do nothing. I'm not doing anything. And it was that work of working through, just getting into that comfortable space and realizing you're tired, go to sleep. And I did that. I fell asleep. And I thought I'd wake up in the morning, it'll be over. It wasn't. As soon as I woke up in the morning, it started again. So I sat with the feeling again. And realizing that Hashem is doing this to me. And Hashem wants me to feel the anger, and so I'm going to let myself feel it. And so I'm accepting it with love. And I'm realizing, why is Hashem doing this to me? Because He wants a closer relationship with me. Because He gave me such a beautiful simcha and so much joy. And I don't know how God works. I'm not understanding His working. I never get calls at 12:30 a.m. to scream at me, ever. And the only time I get it is right after the wedding. And usually if you call me at 12:30 a.m., good luck, because you won't get an answer. I'm sleeping. I was only awake because of that. It's literally direct divine providence, straight from Hashem. So what does Hashem want? Hashem wants me to get into a closer relationship with Him, because He saw so much joy and so much connection that He wants a deeper connection. And so what I was able to do was work through all that anger, sit down, and then after you do it, slowly but surely, it was better that day. The next day was even better. And afterwards, the joy went to a whole new level. Because it's just me and Hashem. And it's okay. And I had to solve the problem. So I called the bacher up, and I told him that this person who's looking out for you did, pretty, ridiculous. Because, like, if you want to call me up and tell me I made a mistake, if I did, then you might gain more by telling me rather than doing expletives. And he told me, I'm so worried because people are always going to call you because I'm in your yeshiva and call you about me and whatever. And I told him what I'd said. I said I may have said it in a way that was, incorrect and therefore misconstrued. I apologize. And done. I'll do it, if anyone calls, I assure you, you have no issues, and it was all fine. And the problem was solved. All good. Without any issues, without any worries, without nothing. We all have foreskin on our hearts. Because if you don't want to have these things happen to you, there's a simple thing you could do. And that is, do nothing. If you do nothing, well, even then you'll deal with some issues like getting depressed. But if you do nothing, then nothing will ever happen to you. But if you're going to live life in Hashem's world, then you're also going to make mistakes, a lot of them. And you're going to encounter people and their rage and their anger, and you're going to walk right into it. And Hashem says to you, your mission is umaltem et orlat levavchem, to circumcise the foreskin of your heart. What does that mean? It means live with joy. Because Hashem is with you all the time, in every single thing, in every single situation. It's just that you can't see what to do when you're angry. Because if you're feeling an anger and you're trying to solve the anger, you're not trying to solve your problem, you're trying to solve your anger. And so you can't solve the issue. The moment you're not angry, it's very simple what to do, always. The solution. And the Torah wants us to live in that space of umaltem et orlat levavchem. Get rid of the foreskin of your heart. Get rid of all those negative forces that are surrounding your heart, enveloping you, and blocking you from expressing yourself. That's the work.
You said every day you worked on it more and more. That was like a few lines before. What does it mean that you worked on it? What did you do?
To work on
That when you were angry. And when you were in the middle of the story. I was waiting for
when your child is angry, right? What does a child need? Little baby, 2-year-old, angry. They need a hug, right? They're angry because something happened, and you probably don't understand why 2-year-olds get angry, but they do. They get really, really upset. So the 2-year-old just needs reassurance and to know it's all good, and the anger goes away. Now, maybe there's a problem. Go solve the problem. But just noticing on yourself how you feel, when you feel, and why you feel. Notice the things that block you from Hashem. Essentially, the way we live life is we get angry, we try to solve our problems, and we live our whole life angry. That's what happens. You have a feeling. You're trying to run away from your feeling. Your whole life, you're trying to run away from your feeling. People get married, and they're insecure. And they'll stay their whole lives doing everything, dancing a whole dance around feeling insecure. Because I feel insecure and I don't want to feel insecure, so I'm going to do everything to stop feeling insecure. But why are you feeling insecure? Because this, that. See the foreskin of the heart? You're secure. You're good. You have all the things you want at every given point in time. How do I know that? Because Hashem's creating the world and Hashem's creating you right now. Therefore, you have love and friendship that you need. You have all the sense of accomplishment, you have a sense of security, you have novelty in your life, you have impact, you have all the midos, right? And you have a sense of altruism, all the good things that you need. You have. The story you tell yourself that you don't have it, and that if such and such were to happen, you would have it, that's the foreskin of the heart. And the mission is not to look for something next to happen to make you happy, but rather to find joy in this current moment. How do I find joy? Simple. Stop trying to solve the problem, which is tomorrow. Don't solve the problem. Just get into the space right now. And then what's going to happen? So, but then what's going to happen? What is going to happen? You'll be joyous. If you'll be joyous, Hashem is going to be with you. And if Hashem is with you, let Him worry about it. Why do I have to worry about the next step? This, you get what I'm saying? It means get into a space of joy with Hashem.
I want to know practically what you did when you were still agitated. Thank you for that word.
I just allowed myself to feel the agitation. and I was, my heart was racing. That's what was happening. My heart, right now, my heart's beating a very normal pace. I don't even feel the beat. If I put my hand by it, I'll feel it. Then the race was like that. Heart was going. So I was sitting over there, not judging myself, saying, "Oh," and then go away. No, don't go away. Just hang around. I'm fine. And then dissipates after time, and then you're good. And now, if I meet the guy in the street, I'm sure I will at some point. Let's see what happens. What actually is wrong. But I think it'll be very nice. I'm like, wow, it's funny. You were pretty angry, weren't you? It will allow me to look at him with compassion, not in a derogatory way, like, "Ooh, you were angry," because that's a good recipe to get him even angrier. But if I look at him that way, then I can decide what to say at the moment. But I'm not angry anymore. So
So how do you bridge the bridge? On the one hand, you're saying feel the agitation. On the other hand, you're saying everything is from Hashem, and Hashem loves us, and this is love. How do you go from A to B?
you got to try not go to places of agitation. Stay away as much as you can from places of agitation. Most agitation comes into your head. When it enters into your head, don't engage the thought. Don't think about it. Stop thinking about it and you won't get agitated. But sometimes things happen that are going to agitate you, whether you thought about it or not. They just enter into your head. Once it's already inside your head and there's a feeling inside there, now you have to do the work. I shouldn't have answered the call. Really, what I should have done is, I shouldn't have called him. Except, I'm a human being. I couldn't have known what the call was about. So I didn't know. So when he called me, it already entered. It was too late. Once it's entered, I got to take the feeling, accept it, and move on. And circumcise the foreskin of your heart. Think about Avraham Avinu. His whole life, that's what he was doing. He didn't know. If you think Avraham Avinu had a great grand plan of creating the Jewish people and starting this whole movement called Judaism, I don't think he did. I think he just knew that I'm in Hashem's hands, and let's go one step forward, and another step, and another step, and another step. And what he was doing his whole life was the work of Umaltem et Ulat Levavchem, which is called Teshuvah. Teshuvah means returning to Hashem and feeling Hashem in your life. Teshuvah has nothing to do with Averis. We use it for Averis, but it's not because of Averis. Teshuvah is returning to Hashem. So if I'm angry, I'm away from Hashem. And Teshuvah, I need to do Teshuvah now. So why do you need to do Teshuvah? You didn't do anything wrong. So you're just angry. Because you're angry and you're disconnected from Hashem. And Teshuvah means to allow yourself to return to that space of being one with Hashem in this very moment. And it's so powerful and so beautiful. But Avraham Avinu wanted a much higher level of milah. See, the Torah says, "Lo b'shamayim hi leimor, mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayim v'yikacheh lanu." Torah is not in heaven that you should say, who's going to go up to heaven and take it? It's right with you. If you pay attention to those words, mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayim, who will go up to heaven to get the Torah? What is the acronym, the Rashi Tevot of mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayim? Milah. What are the Safei Tevot, last letters of each of those words? Mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayim. Yud Kei Vav Kei. Can you see how the beginning of each word spells out the word milah, Brit Milah? The end of each word spells out the word Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now that's significant. Why is Yud Kei Vav Kei at the end and milah is at the beginning? That's because Yud Kei Vav Kei is lower than milah. Milah is the beginning of the words, and Yud Kei Vav Kei is the end of the words, because Yud Kei Vav Kei allows you to reach a certain level, but milah takes you above Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Torah that we have, we learn Torah, we fulfill the Torah. Torah is called Torah Hashem, right? And we sing that song, Torah Hashem, Demima. Torah Hashem. Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Torah of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Because Torah follows the rules of Hashem. Torah is the rules of Hashem. It's the instructions. Do this and this will happen, do that and that will happen. Don't do this, stay away from that. 613 mitzvahs, 365 don'ts, 248 do's. That's Torah. And we learn Torah and we obey the Torah. Ever found yourself thinking that me and Hashem, just me, and Hashem, we have a relationship that I can circumvent. I'm good. Me and Hashem, we're good. Like, I can't forget, but a lady, many, many years ago, who she told me that on Friday night, she said, this is my biggest aveira. She washes in a freezing cold winter night, she washes the dishes, and she opens the hot water. She said, I cannot believe that Hashem wants me to get chapped hands and frozen fingers and wash the dishes. I need to wash the dishes. And all I need to do is just move the faucet this way and then it works. So she says, I do that. And she's a religious lady and everything else, and she tells me and Hashem, we are good with each other. We have a relationship and we're good. I suspect that many of us do it in different ways, whereby we believe that there's Torah, but then me and Hashem, we have a different kind of relationship. Now note what that means. That means Hashem tells me what to do. I listen to what he says. I'm a firm Jew. I listen to everything Hashem says. But, I also have my things, my quirks and things I need and without. I need to circumvent the issue. Now, was an argument in the Gemara that took place between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. And Rabbi Eliezer, he said that a certain case, Tanur Shel Achna, it's called, he said tahor. And everyone in the base medrash said tameh, no good. So Rabbi Eliezer finally said, you know what? He says, first he said that the river outside should prove my point. So the river starts flowing upstream instead of downstream. And Rabbi Yeshua looks and he says, we don't care about rivers, they don't pass in halachas in the base medrash. So then he says, okay, the walls of the base medrash should prove it, and the walls started to cave in. Rabbi Yeshua said, walls, why are you intervening? So the walls didn't know what to do. They couldn't go back because Rabbi Eliezer said to go down. They couldn't go down because Rabbi Yeshua said not to, so they stayed slanted. And then he says, okay, Hashem should prove my point. And the heavenly voice comes out and proclaims, Rabbi Eliezer, my son, is correct. So Rabbi Yeshua looks and says, so sorry, God. I get that heavenly voice means Hashem's word, but the Torah is not in heaven. And so we rule against you. And later on, Eliyahu Hanavi, he heard, had said that Nitzchuni banai nitzchuni. My sons defeated me, my sons defeated me. Because indeed, the Torah is not in heaven. Torah comes down, and Hashem sort of like gives you the power to figure it out down here on planet Earth. And so he lets humans figure out the Torah, and it's not in heaven, it comes down from heaven. There is a way, though, that we can rise into the heavens, into that heavenly voice. We have a power to go into a space with Hashem where us and Hashem are absolutely one, totally and utterly one. So, yes, it's true. Hashem tells you you're not allowed to use hot water on Friday night. You're not allowed to. There's no way around that. But your feeling of Hashem loves me anyway is actually quite accurate. He does. Hashem doesn't love you because you decide to not use water on Friday night, hot water. Hashem loves you because he loves you. And if you get it, you won't use hot water on Friday night. But don't ever think that Hashem's love for you is hingent on what you do for him. The Torah is indeed Torah's Hashem. That means Yud Kei Vav Kei commands you the Torah. But there is a way to rise above Yud Kei Vav Kei. In other words, Hashem's love for us is not hingent on keeping of the Torah and mitzvahs. It's not hingent on anything. And this is the key and the core of what a relationship is all about. Relationships are not based on good connections. Relationships are. It's because it's an absolute sense of safety. Avraham Avinu had a big problem with his relationship with Hashem. He said, God, it's very nice. I'm doing everything for you. I'm keeping all the mitzvahs. I'm doing everything for you. But there's one little problem that I have. That we're in a good relationship because I'm good. Because I'm Avraham Avinu. And I'm always with you. I'm asking you, Hashem, what's going to happen when down the road there'll be a bunch of Jews sitting in Tafshin Pei in 2024, and they're not such holy Jews, but they're my children. I want to know that you're going to love them regardless of what they are and regardless of what they say. You know, the one of the candidates of the presidency, the one that we want to win, he said, this is his statement, he has some ridiculous statements that he makes. What he said was that if he doesn't win, then Israel will cease to be in 2 years. God forbid. That's what he said. Now, I don't know who's winning. I don't. But I know one thing for sure. That statement is as incorrect as you could ever get. Somebody actually went and pointed out to him. She said, Mr. President, just want you to know that as great as you are, we don't depend on you. We depend on Hashem. Isn't it true that as much as everybody is afraid, anxious over who's going to win the elections, the anxiety is on a very superficial level, deep down in your soul. You don't have any shred of a doubt that no matter how difficult it's going to be, in 100 years from now, there's going to be a people of Israel, and it's going to be an Am Yisrael Chai, we love to say, right? Of course it's going to be. The New York Times once played, I think in 2000, they played, they went they printed a paper for 2100, projecting what's going to be. And all sorts of things about the robots and the technology and whatever, all these things and whatever. And the New York Times, they're not exactly lovers of Israel. At the bottom of the page, or the front page, candle lighting times for Shabbat.
It's language of exaggeration to the point.
One thing we know for sure is that in 2100 there'll be ladies lighting candles for Shabbat. There's no question, right? How do you know that? How do you know that the Jewish people are going to endure forever? You know how you know? It's very simple. Because Hashem made a bris with Avraham Avinu. That's how you know. Hashem made a pact with Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu said, I'm not making a bris milah with you, Hashem, if it's a one-way bris milah. I'll circumcise the foreskin of my heart. I'll do everything, but I won't do the actual cut until you get into this relationship, until you tell me that the love is the love of a bris. The love of a bris means a love that endures forever and has nothing to do with what I do. It's not because I'm a good guy in this relationship with you. You know how marriages work? Fascinating. I came to weddings cost a lot of money. A lot of money. And I always wonder, why on earth are you doing a wedding? It's seriously ridiculous. What's the problem? Just move in and live life together. Why the need for the ceremony? This event called a chuppah and a wedding and all. Bishvil ma? You want to get married? Just get married. Just say, hi, you have a lot of money to spend, go ahead and spend it. If you don't, why would you spend money you don't have? There's something crazy that happens at a wedding. And people react afterwards in very interesting ways. Not always good, hopefully good. If you're living with someone and you didn't get married, you always have an out. If you have an out, you're never in. Literally. Marriage requires that you're sitting in a relationship and you say, I'm stuck. You have to be stuck for this to work. If you're not stuck, it's not going to succeed. It can't happen. So marriage is basically a formal ceremony whereby you declare, I hereby declare myself stuck forever with you. And it's a ridiculous thing to do because you're closing up all your opportunities and all your options. Why would you do that? Right? That's why many people don't, by the way. Because they want to keep the options open and stay single and go on, right? All the shadchanim over here know that people they can't commit. That's what we have an issue. They can't commit. Yeah, commitment is so hard. Because once I say yes, all my options go out the window. I'm stuck. That sense of being stuck is the core of what makes marriage work. The other day, I was talking to a couple, and They married for a bunch of years and had a few kids. And she's out. She's not interested. She says, I can't do this. In a nutshell, he used to yell at her and used to scream at her and used to put her down and all this. And she can't. And now she says he's actually trying so hard now. He's working hard. He's spending time with the kids. He's loving me. He really is. But it's too little, too late. Can't do it. So she wants out. In fact, she told him, the best way to do it is let's just we'll live together in the house for the kids, because I don't think I'm going anywhere. But, you will just be divorced. Living in the same house, you upstairs, I'm downstairs, and good. And I listened to the whole conversation, and I gave her, my 2 cents of it. And basically what I told her was that you've just unleashed nuclear power into this marriage. You unleashed a nuclear bomb into this marriage. When you used the D word, when you threatened divorce, what just happened now is you undid the bris. You undid the bond that happened between 2 people when they got married. This guy in your marriage is not able, he has no idea now how to be married to you. Why? Because at any point in time, you could divorce him. She says, but there's no fighting, no arguing, we're so sweet and nice and whatever. I'm like, that's called passive aggressive. More aggressive than anything else. What you're saying is, you dare do one thing wrong, you're out. So this poor guy in this marriage now, what just happened to him? There's zero intimacy. She says, what should I do? I'm like, you should get into the marriage and let go. You want to get out? Get out. If it's out. But be aware of, I gave her exactly what's going to happen if you get out. So more likely than not, you'll be the one to lose, not him. And your kids will lose more than anyone else. Now, if we get that idea we got it, yeah, okay. Here's the story in a marriage. Marriage means allowing intimacy in. It means that you give your husband total respect. Total. And total vulnerability. And if you do, then the marriage can work. But how do I know? How do I get it? That's exactly what the marriage is about. You don't know. And you have to let go into another person. And you have to allow Hashem to do the work. And then the guy called me up later. He said, what should I do here? And I said, my dear friend, I think that you're becoming the woman in this marriage. Because your wife is holding this big, hammer over your head. If you do one thing wrong, out. And really what you should be doing is accepting. It's okay. You want to get out? I'm out. I can't forget once a guy, a very, very powerful guy. He told me like this. He said his wife threatened him with divorce. She said, if you know whatever, I'm getting divorced. So this guy said like this. He said, the second she said that, I told my wife, you never use that word in this marriage. Second you said that, I don't know if most people want to try this, but he said, I spoke to him, I went to meet him, and he told me, I said, how's your marriage? So he said to me, did my wife ask you to call? I said, no, but there's something going on, isn't there? And then we started to talk. He said, how did you know? I said, I'm just a bit of a busybody. I ask everyone how their marriage is. That's how I didn't know. But we got into a whole conversation about it. And he said, when she threatened divorce, this was, I was in that days. He said, I have a divorce agreement ready for her. It's ready. It's done. It's done. The next day he came over to her. He gave her the agreement. He said, if you threaten with divorce, here it is on the table. Here's my pledge to you. If you stay in this marriage, I have everything to give you. I'm all in by giving you my whole entire self. I love you. I want to be with you forever, and I want everything. But if you ever use the word divorce on me, here it is. They're still married a bunch of years later. On the other flip side, don't try this at home, right? But there was, I remember a couple, the lady threatened with divorce, and she called the Beis Din up, and then 2 days later they were divorced. Literally, they like out of the blue. Totally out of the blue. So, because she said divorce, he said, okay, yeah. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be ready for the worst case scenario, I told this guy. Be ready for it. Be okay with it. Because if you're okay with it, she has nothing over you. And if she has nothing over you, now you can be totally there for her. Because if you're scared the whole time that she's going to divorce you, so you're just doing everything to please her and not about the relationship. But if you don't care, I mean don't care. I mean you're okay with the worst disappointment, then you're able to be a man. So she needs to give him the ability to be totally vulnerable to him and to accept him for what he is. And he needs to give her a total sense of acceptance for what she is, not because I'm scared of you. That's called a marriage. A marriage is a total commitment. Avram Avinu wanted a marriage with Hashem. He wanted to know that us and Hashem doesn't love us because of any reason. I don't care what the reason is, even if the reason is because you have an Avram Avinu child. Because you won't always have Avram Avinu children. Some of the Jews, disasters. The worst of the worst. Hashem, you want them or not? That was the question. And until the day Hashem wasn't willing to say, I'm totally in this. Until the day Hashem himself was not willing to be, get this word, vulnerable. That's the Rabbi Manis Friedman word. But get the idea. It means that Hashem was giving vulnerability. That's what he was giving. Because what Hashem should really be saying is, no, if you obey my Torah, then I'm in the marriage. And if you don't, I'm not. Vulnerability on Hashem's part means he's saying, I am accepting the Jewish people regardless. That means we Jews, crazy as we are, as much as we do, we all know, we don't have any shred of a doubt that the Jewish people will be around forever. I don't know where Iran's going to be. I don't know where America's going to be. But I know Am Yisrael Chai. How do you know that? Because Hashem gave us a promise. And Hashem was very vulnerable in that promise. Because many, many Jews don't care about Hashem. But Hashem says, you know, we say in davening, Adiya, translate these words and look how powerful it is. Adiya avor amcha Hashem. We say that right where? Oz Yashir? What does it mean, Adiya avor amcha Hashem? What are we going to pass over? Typically speaking, it was because the sea split. Until your nation passes over. The Hasidic translation is, we're not passing over a sea, we're crossing over Hashem. Ad ya'avor amcha yud vavke. Hashem gives us things to do. Hashem tells us what to do. But then Hashem says, even if you don't do it, I still love you. There's Torah, which is Torah Hashem. And then there's a way to rise above Hashem. That's why Mila is the Rosh Tevis, not the Sefer Tevis, the beginning of the word. Mia alelanu Hashemayim amid. You can arise into a relationship with Hashem. Mila means a pact, a bris. When a couple gets married, what they're saying is that even if all the reasons for the marriage fall apart, I'm still gonna stay with you. And when you're 20 years married down the road, you want to go back to that sense of marriage and say, I'm not married to you because of what you do for me. I'm married to you because you're the other half of my neshama, and I'm all in. And that's called vulnerability on both of their parts. And Avraham Avinu said to Hashem, unless Hashem, you're into the marriage fully, I'm not doing the bris milah. Because what does milah mean? Milah is, Mia alelanu hashamayim, milah is the beginning of, it's above shamayim. Ad ya'avor amcha Hashem, I want to rise above it. I want a pact and a pledge from you, Hashem, that you don't care what I do, that you're with me regardless of what I do. There's a beautiful pasuk which says, when Avraham Avinu had the bris, it says, Be'etzem hayom hazeh nimol Avraham. It looks like a side pasuk. It's like, in the middle of the day, Avraham had a bris milah. Be'etzem hayom hazeh nimol Avraham. Avraham Avinu sat down and he said, Hashem, are you taking care of me or not? Taking care of me means don't tell me that you love me because of all the things I do for you. Are you ready to accept me regardless, even if I don't do anything? It doesn't say Vayamal Avraham, like it says by Yishmael. It says Nimol Avraham. What's Nimol? Avraham Avinu sat there and he said, I'm just accepting the beauty of Hashem's presence. It's like the Jewish people today, right? The Jewish people need one thing to do. It doesn't make 1 inch of a difference who wins the elections. You know what makes a difference? How strong the Jews stay. Jewish people need to be strong. It's much easier if one side wins the elections and therefore pressurizes us less. But Am Yisrael needs to do one simple thing, and that is follow Torah and stay put with Hashem. So when everyone else tells you to stop this war and to let go, you say no. What does Torah say to do? Torah says to bomb them, bomb them. Torah says bomb the nuclear warheads, bomb them. Don't care what happens next. Do what Hashem says and do it. Do you know how much courage that takes? It takes courage of just standing in the presence of it's called being passive. Moving forward with the passiveness. What's the passiveness? I'm accepting whatever I'm with Hashem. I'm not worried about a thing. It's the hardest thing in the world to not be worried when there's all the worries around you. That's what Hashem wants. Hashem says, don't worry, no matter how worrying it is around you. Just sit there and in a space of joy. I don't care how many problems you have around you. The whole world wants to kill you? Yeah, Hashem is with us. And you move forward. Be'etzem hayom hazeh nimol Avraham. Avraham Avinu said, I'm sitting back. Nimol is passive. I'm sitting back and I'm allowing Hashem to take care of me. I'm allowing Hashem to give me a pact of agreement and a pact of a bris that He's always with me forever. And that's why it says be'etzem hayom hazeh. What's etzem hayom hazeh? The core of that day. There's one day called Yom Shekulei Shabbos U'Menucha. There's one day called the day of Mashiach. And we Jews, we know well. It's built into our psyche, our core of our being, that Mashiach is coming. When Mashiach comes, the whole world is going to know Hashem. And we're moving toward that direction. It's just a question of happen today, tomorrow, hopefully today. We're davening for it to happen today. But we know it's happening. We know it's coming about. And because we know it, we rest in that space. It's such a beautiful, gorgeous space to be in. It's called being taken care of. Because you know Hashem taking care of you. Be'etzem hayom hazeh nimol Avraham. On that day, Avraham Avinu says to Hashem, Hashem, I love you. What we want to do with Hashem is say, Hashem, thank you for taking care of us always. I'm so sorry that I never felt you were taking care of me. The biggest issue I have is I never chapped it, that you're vulnerable to me and you love me regardless. All I want from you, Hashem says, is for you to feel that I love you and I'm taking care of you. And stop worrying about the rest of the world and the things that are falling apart and everything else going on. Don't worry about a thing. But not to worry, that's the hardest thing in the world. So Avraham Avinu gets all the credit for doing one simple thing that he did. What did Avraham Avinu do? He allowed Hashem to take care of him. And because he did that, he's Avraham Avinu. And he got the bris milah. Be'etzem hayom hazeh nimol Avraham. And that's our work. The work is to feel Hashem's presence all the time, taking care of us all the time, again and again and again. And ultimately to just realize that you don't really need to do anything. And one day Hashem comes and reveals Himself and says, I did the bris milah for you. That's the vulnerability of Hashem. And our work is to sit there in that space and accept how cool that is.